Welcome to the Ultimate Bible Quiz. Test your knowledge of miracles in the Bible with this 50 fun and challenging Bible quiz questions. Whether you're a Bible trivia pro or new to the Bible, this quiz will edify your soul and refresh your mind of God's Word. Don't forget to subscribe for more engaging Bible quizzes, share this video to support our mission of spreading the gospel, and comment your score below. Let's dive in and see how well you know the miracles in the Bible. Ready? Let's begin. Question 1. What miracle did Jesus perform at the wedding in Cana? Was it A. Fed 5,000, B. Walked on water, C. Turned water into wine, or D. Healed the sick? You have 10 seconds. The answer is C. Turned water into wine from John 2:9. The verse says, "When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom." This was Jesus' first recorded miracle, revealing his divine power and compassion for human joy. The lesson here is that Jesus cares about our needs and provides in ways we cannot imagine. Question 2. Which sea did God part for the Israelites to escape the Egyptians? Was it A. Jordan River, B. Red Sea, C. Dead Sea, or D. Sea of Galilee? You've got 10 seconds to answer. The answer is B. Red Sea, from Exodus 14:21. The verse says, "And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided." This miracle shows God's ability to deliver his people in impossible circumstances. It teaches us that no obstacle is too great for God when we trust him. Question 3. What miracle did Elijah perform at Mount Carmel? Was it A. Called fire from heaven, B. Parted the Jordan, C. Stopped the rain, or D. Raised the dead? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. Called fire from heaven, from 1 Kings 18 verse 38. The verse states, "Then the fire of the Lord fell, and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench." This miracle showed God's supremacy over false gods, leading the Israelites back to him. The lesson is that God responds to faith and prayer, even in challenging circumstances. Question 4. Who was healed by touching the hem of Jesus' garment? Was it A. A blind man, B. A leper, C. A woman with an issue of blood, or D. A lame man? Take 10 seconds to think. The answer is C. A woman with an issue of blood, from Luke 8:44. The verse says, "Came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched." This miracle demonstrates the power of faith. The woman believed in Jesus' ability to heal, and her faith was rewarded. The lesson is to approach Jesus with unwavering belief, knowing that he notices and cares for us individually. Question 5. What food did Jesus multiply to feed 5,000 people? Was it A. bread and fish, B. bread and wine, C. manna and quail, or D. fruit and grain? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. bread and fish, from Matthew 14 verse 19. The verse says, "And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude." This miracle shows Jesus' compassion and ability to provide abundantly. It reminds us to trust him with our needs. Question 6. Who was swallowed by a great fish and survived? Was it A. Elijah, B. Jonah, C. Daniel, or D. Ezekiel? Time is ticking. You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Jonah, from Jonah 1:17. The verse says, "Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." This event highlights God's mercy and discipline, giving Jonah a second chance to fulfill his mission. The lesson is that God's plans will always prevail, and He is merciful to those who repent. Question 7. What miracle did Elisha perform for the widow of Zarephath? Was it A. multiplied oil, B. raised her son, C. provided manna, or D. parted the waters? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. multiplied oil, from 2 Kings 4 verse 6. The verse says, "And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more, and the oil stayed." This miracle showed God's provision in difficult times. It teaches us that God blesses those who trust Him and act in faith. Question 8. What did Jesus do when His disciples were afraid during a storm? Was it A. walked on water, B. stilled the storm, C. called angels to help, or D. prayed silently? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Stilled the storm, from Mark 4:39. The verse says, "And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm." By calming the storm, Jesus demonstrated His authority over nature and His care for His disciples. The lesson is to trust Him in life's storms, knowing that He brings peace. Question 9. Which prophet caused an iron axe head to float? Was it A. Elijah, B. Elisha, C. Isaiah, or D. Jeremiah? You've got 10 seconds to answer. The answer is B. Elisha, from 2 Kings 6:6. The verse says, "And the man of God said, Where fell it? And he shewed him the place, and he cut down a stick and cast it in thither, and the iron did swim." This miracle revealed God's care for even small needs. It teaches us that nothing is too insignificant to bring to God, as He is concerned with every detail of our lives. Question 10. What miracle did Peter perform at the temple gate called Beautiful? Was it A. healed a blind man, B. raised a dead child, C. healed a lame man, or D. cast out a demon? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is C. Healed a lame man, from Acts 3 verse 6. The verse says, "Then Peter said, Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk." This miracle demonstrated the power of Jesus' name and emphasized spiritual riches over material wealth. The lesson is that God's blessings transform lives in ways beyond the physical. Question 11. What happened when Paul and Silas prayed and sang hymns in prison? Was it A. the guards converted, B. an angel freed them, C. an earthquake opened the prison doors, or D. they escaped through a vision? Take 10 seconds to think. The answer is C. An earthquake opened the prison doors, from Acts 16 verse 26. The verse says, "And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed." This miracle showed God's power to deliver and the effectiveness of faith and praise. The lesson is to trust and worship God even in difficult times, knowing He can work mightily in our circumstances. Question 12. What miracle did Jesus perform for Lazarus? Was it A, healed him of leprosy, B, raised him from the dead, C, restored his sight, or D, freed him from a demon? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Raised him from the dead, from John 11:43-44. The verse says, "And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, Loose him, and let him go." This miracle demonstrated Jesus' power over death and his role as the resurrection and the life. It reminds us that Jesus brings life and hope to the hopeless. Question 13. What miracle occurred when the Israelites marched around Jericho? Was it A, fire fell from heaven, B, the walls of Jericho fell, C, the Jordan River stopped flowing, or D, a plague struck the enemies? You have 10 seconds, let's go. The answer is B. The walls of Jericho fell, from Joshua 6:20. The verse says, "So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city." This miracle shows the power of obedience and faith in God. The lesson is to trust God's methods and timing. Question 14. What happened when Jesus encountered the fig tree that bore no fruit? Was it A, he blessed it to bear fruit, B, he cursed it and it withered, C, he ignored it, or D, he used it as shelter? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He cursed it, and it withered, from Matthew 21:19. The verse says, "And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away." This miracle symbolizes the importance of spiritual fruitfulness. The lesson is that God values genuine faith and actions that reflect His will, not just appearances. Question 15. What miracle happened when Moses struck the rock in Horeb? Was it A, fire came out, B, water gushed out, C, the rock split in two, or D, the rock turned to bread? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Water gushed out, from Exodus 17:6. The verse says, "Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. This miracle demonstrates God's provision in desperate times. The lesson is that God provides for our needs in miraculous ways when we trust Him. Question 16. What miracle occurred when Elijah prayed for the widow's son? Was it A, the son was healed of leprosy, B, the son was raised from the dead, C, the son's blindness was cured, or D, the son's strength was restored? You've got 10 seconds to decide. The answer is B. The son was raised from the dead, from 1 Kings 17:22. The verse says, "And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived." This miracle showed God's power over life and death, and His compassion for those in need. The lesson is the importance of fervent prayer and faith in God's ability to bring restoration. Question 17. What happened when Jesus told Peter to cast his net after a night of no catch? Was it A, the net broke from the fish, B, the net came back empty, C, the sea calmed, or D, Peter walked on water? Take 10 seconds. The answer is A, the net broke from the fish. From Luke 5:6. The verse says, "And when they had this done, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake." This miracle revealed Jesus' authority over nature and the blessings of obedience. The lesson is that trusting Jesus, even when our efforts seem fruitless, can bring overwhelming results and blessings. Question 18. What miracle occurred when Naaman followed Elisha's instructions? Was it A, he was healed of blindness, B, he was healed of leprosy, C, he was protected from an army, or D, he was given riches? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He was healed of leprosy, from 2 Kings 5 verse 14. The verse says, "Then went he down, and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean." This miracle shows the importance of obedience and humility. The lesson is that following God's instructions leads to healing and transformation. Question 19. What happened when Jesus told the storm to be still? Was it A, the storm grew stronger, B, the storm stopped immediately, C, the disciples swam to safety, or D, angels came to help? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. The storm stopped immediately, from Mark 4:39. The verse says, "And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm." This miracle demonstrates Jesus' power over nature and his care for his disciples. The lesson is to trust him in life's storms, knowing that he has the power to bring peace and calm. Question 20. What miracle happened when the widow gave her last meal to Elijah? Was it A, her flour and oil lasted until the famine ended, B, she received gold from Elijah, C, she was given a new home, or D, she was made queen? Time is ticking. The answer is A. Her flour and oil lasted until the famine ended, from 1 Kings 17 verse 16. The verse says, "And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord which he spake by Elijah." This miracle showed God's provision for those who act in faith. The lesson is that God blesses obedience and faith, providing abundantly for those who trust him. Question 21. What miracle occurred when Elisha prayed for his servant to see? Was it A, the servant saw an army of angels, B, the servant was healed of blindness, C, the servant received riches, or D, the servant saw Elisha ascend to heaven? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, the servant saw an army of angels, from 2 Kings 6:17. The verse says, "And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha." This miracle revealed God's protection over his people. The lesson is that even when we feel outnumbered, God is fighting for us, and we need spiritual eyes to see his work. Question 22. What miracle did Jesus perform for the man at the pool of Bethesda? Was it A, he made him walk, B, he restored his sight, C, he healed his leprosy, or D, he cast out a demon? Take 10 seconds to decide. The answer is A. He made him walk, from John 5, verse 8 to 9. The verse says, Jesus saith unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. This miracle demonstrated Jesus' compassion and power. The lesson is that no situation is too hopeless for Jesus to change, and his word brings healing and restoration. Question 23. What miracle happened to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace? Was it A, they were consumed by the fire? B, an angel rescued them? C, they walked unharmed in the fire? Or D, the furnace was destroyed? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is C, they walked unharmed in the fire, from Daniel 3:25. The verse says, He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. This miracle demonstrates God's power to save and his presence with his people in trials. The lesson is that God stands with us in difficult times and can protect us from harm when we remain faithful to him. Question 24. What miracle did Jesus perform for the 10 lepers? Was it A, he healed them of blindness? B, he healed them of leprosy? C, he forgave their sins? Or D, he fed them? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He healed them of leprosy. From Luke 17:14. The verse says, And when he saw them, he said unto them, Go shew yourselves unto the priests. And it came to pass, that, as they went, they were cleansed. This miracle shows Jesus' compassion and power to heal. The lesson is to have gratitude for God's blessings, as only one leper returned to thank him. Always give thanks for what God has done for you. Question 25. What miracle occurred when Jesus fed 4,000 people? Was it A, he used 7 loaves and a few fish? B, used 5 loaves and 2 fish? C, he turned stones into bread? Or D, he created manna from heaven? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. He used 7 loaves and a few fish, from Matthew 15, verse 36 to 37. The verse says, And he took the 7 loaves and the fishes, and gave thanks, and brake them, and gave to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up of the broken meat that was left 7 baskets full. This miracle shows Jesus' compassion and abundant provision. Trust in his ability to meet our needs. Question 26. What happened when Moses lifted his rod over the Nile River? Was it A, the river turned to blood? B, the river dried up? C, the river overflowed? Or D, the river became pure? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, the river turned to blood. From Exodus 7:20. The verse says, And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. And he lifted up the rod, and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. This miracle demonstrated God's power over nature and his judgment on Pharaoh. It teaches us to heed God's warnings. Question 27. What miracle did Jesus perform for the centurion's servant? Was it A, he healed him without visiting? B, he raised him from the dead? C, he restored his sight? Or D, he cast out a demon? You've got 10 seconds. Question 28. What happened to Daniel in the lion's den? Was it A, he was eaten by lions? B, angels shut the lions' mouths? C, he escaped before being thrown in? Or D, he tamed the lions? You've got 10 seconds to answer. Question 28. What miracle occurred during Paul's ministry in Troas? Was it A, he raised Eutychus from the dead after he fell out of a window? B, he healed a leper? C, he caused an earthquake? Or D, he multiplied bread and fish? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Angels shut the lions' mouths, from Daniel 6:22. The verse says, "My God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. Forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O King, have I done no hurt." This miracle highlights God's power to protect his faithful servants. The lesson is to trust God in the face of danger, knowing he can deliver us from harm. Question 29. What miracle occurred when Paul was bitten by a viper on Malta? Was it A, he became ill but recovered? B, he suffered no harm? C, he cast the viper into the fire and it spoke? Or D, he killed the viper? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B, he suffered no harm, from Acts 28:5. The verse says, "And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm." This miracle showed God's protection over Paul and affirmed his ministry to the people of Malta. The lesson is to trust in God's provision and protection, even in unexpected dangers. Question 30. What miracle happened when Elijah stayed with the widow of Zarephath? Was it A, her son was raised from the dead? B, her flour and oil never ran out? C, her house was filled with gold? Or D, her crops produced 100-fold? Time is ticking, you've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. Her flour and oil never ran out, from 1 Kings 17 verse 16. The verse says, "And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah." This miracle demonstrates God's faithfulness to those who trust him. The lesson is that God provides abundantly, even in times of scarcity, when we act in faith and obedience. Question 31. What happened when Jesus healed the man born blind? Was it A, he spoke a word, and the man was healed? B, he anointed his eyes with clay and told him to wash? C, he laid hands on him in the temple? Or D, he commanded a demon to leave him? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He anointed his eyes with clay and told him to wash, from John 9 verse 6-7. The verse says, "When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which is by interpretation sent. He went his way therefore, and washed and came seeing. This miracle emphasizes obedience to Jesus' instructions. The lesson is that following Jesus' sovereign guidance leads to transformation and restoration. Question 32. What miracle occurred during the battle with Gideon's 300 men? Was it A, angels fought for them? B, the enemy turned on themselves in confusion? C, fire fell from heaven? Or D, Gideon's army became invisible? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. The enemy turned on themselves in confusion, from Judges 7:22. The verse says, "And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Bethsheba in Zererath, and to the border of Abel-Meholah unto Tabbath." This victory demonstrates God's power to bring victory through faith and obedience. The lesson is that trusting God can lead to victory, even against overwhelming odds. Question 33. What happened when Jesus walked on water? Was it A, Peter also walked on water briefly? B, the storm stopped instantly? C, the boat sank and was raised by Jesus? Or D, the disciples saw angels in the storm? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, Peter also walked on water briefly, from Matthew 14:29. The verse says, "And he said, 'Come.' And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus." This miracle demonstrated Jesus' authority over nature and Peter's faith. The lesson is that when we focus on Jesus, we can overcome challenges, but doubt and fear can cause us to falter. Keep your eyes on Him. Question 34. What happened to the water at Marah when Moses threw a tree into it? Was it A, it became bitter, B, it became sweet, C, it turned into blood, or D, it dried up? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. It became sweet, from Exodus 15 verse 25. The verse says, "And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord shewed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them." This miracle showed God's ability to transform bitterness into blessings. The lesson is that God can change even the most difficult situations when we trust Him. Question 35. What miracle occurred when Elijah prayed on Mount Carmel? Was it A, fire fell from heaven? B, the heavens opened with rain? C, a whirlwind carried him away? Or D, an angel appeared? You've got 10 seconds to decide. The answer is A, fire fell from heaven, from 1 Kings 18:38. The verse says, "Then the fire of the Lord fell, and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench." This miracle demonstrated God's supremacy over false gods and led the people to repentance. The lesson is that faith and prayer can reveal God's power and turn hearts back to Him. Question 36. What happened to the Jordan River when the priests carrying the ark stepped into it? Was it A, the waters dried up? B, the waters turned to blood? C, the waters overflowed? Or D, the waters became salty? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, the waters dried up, from Joshua 3:16. The verse says that the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon an heap very far from the city Adam, that is beside Zaretan. And those that came down toward the sea of the plain, even the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people passed over right against Jericho. This miracle demonstrated God's faithfulness. The lesson is that God makes a way when we trust Him and step out in faith. Question 37. What happened when Jesus told a paralyzed man to take up his bed and walk? Was it A, the man questioned Jesus? B, the man walked immediately? C, the crowd mocked him? Or D, angels carried the man? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. The man walked immediately, from Matthew 9:6. The verse says, "But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins. Then saith he to the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up thy bed, and go unto thine house." This miracle demonstrated Jesus' authority to forgive sins and heal. The lesson is to trust Jesus for both physical and spiritual healing, as He cares for our whole being. Question 38. What miracle occurred when the Israelites were in the wilderness and had no food? Was it A, manna fell from heaven, B, birds flew into their camp, C, water flowed from rocks, or D, fire provided warmth? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, manna fell from heaven, from Exodus 16:4. The verse says, "Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no." This miracle showed God's provision for his people's physical needs. The lesson is to rely on God's daily provision and trust him for all our needs. Question 39. What happened to the walls of Jericho when the Israelites followed God's instructions? Was it A, they became fortified, B, they fell flat, C, they burned down, or D, they were covered with vines? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. They fell flat, from Joshua 6:20. The verse says, "So the people shouted when the priests blew at the trumpets. And it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city." This miracle shows that God's victory comes through faith and obedience. Question 40. What miracle occurred when Paul preached late into the night? Was it A, a man fell from a window and was raised back to life? B, the building shook and people were converted? C, an angel appeared to the congregation? Or D, the crowd fell asleep and woke up healed? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A. A man fell from a window and was raised back to life, from Acts 20 verse 9 to 10. The verse says, "And there sat in a window a certain young man named Eutychus, being fallen into a deep sleep. And as Paul was long preaching, he sunk down with sleep and fell down from the third loft and was taken up dead. And Paul went down and fell on him and embracing him said, Trouble not yourselves, for his life is in him." This miracle highlights God's mercy and power to restore life. It teaches us to value God's word and trust his ability to revive what is lost. Question 41. What happened when Peter prayed for Tabitha, Dorcas? Was it A, she was healed of blindness, B, she was raised from the dead, C, she spoke in tongues, or D, she gave a prophecy? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. She was raised from the dead, from Acts 9:40. The verse says, "But Peter put them all forth and kneeled down and prayed, and turning him to the body said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up." This miracle demonstrated the power of prayer and God's ability to restore life. The lesson is that God can bring new life and hope through faith and fervent prayer, showing his compassion for those in need. Question 42. What miracle did Jesus perform for the demon-possessed man in Gadara? Was it A, he restored his sight, B, he cast out the demons into a herd of swine, C, he healed his leprosy, or D, he forgave his sins? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He cast out the demons into a herd of swine. From Mark 5 verse 13. The verse says, "And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine. And the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea." This miracle revealed Jesus' authority over demons and his power to bring peace. The lesson is that Jesus can deliver us from any form of bondage, bringing freedom and restoration. Question 43. What happened when Jesus healed Jairus' daughter? Was it A, she was healed from blindness, B, she was raised from the dead, C, she was cured of leprosy, or D, she walked on water? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. She was raised from the dead, from Luke 8:54-55. The verse says, "And he put them all out, and took her by the hand, and called, saying, Maid, arise. And her spirit came again, and she arose straightway, and he commanded to give her meat." This miracle showed Jesus' power over death and his compassion. The lesson is to trust Jesus even in desperate situations, believing that he has the power to restore life and hope. Question 44. What miracle did Jesus perform for Bartimaeus? Was it A, he healed his blindness, B, he cured him of leprosy, C, he forgave his sins, or D, he multiplied his wealth? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, he healed his blindness, from Mark 10:52. The verse says, "And Jesus said unto him, Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way." This miracle highlights the power of persistent faith. Bartimaeus called out to Jesus despite opposition, and his faith brought healing. The lesson is to trust Jesus completely and seek him wholeheartedly. Question 45. What happened in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Was it A, they were consumed by the fire, B, they walked unharmed and a fourth figure appeared, C, it became cold as ice, or D, it was destroyed? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. They walked unharmed, and a fourth figure appeared, from Daniel 3:25. The verse says, "He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God." This miracle showed God's protection for his faithful servants and his presence with them. The lesson is that God stands with us in trials, offering protection and peace when we remain faithful. Question 46. What miracle occurred when Jesus healed the servant of the high priest during his arrest? Was it A, he restored his ear, B, he healed his hand, C, he stopped him from being attacked, or D, he raised him from the dead? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is A, he restored his ear, from Luke 22:51. The verse says, "And Jesus answered and said, Suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him." This miracle highlighted Jesus' compassion even toward his enemies. The lesson is that we should show love and mercy even to those who oppose us, reflecting Jesus' example of grace and forgiveness. Question 47. What miracle occurred when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea? Was it A, the sea turned to blood, B, the sea parted and they walked on dry ground, C, a bridge appeared, or D, the sea dried up permanently? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. The sea parted, and they walked on dry ground, from Exodus 14 verse 21-22. The verse says, "And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left." This miracle demonstrates God's power to deliver his people and fulfill his promises. The lesson is to trust God to make a way, even when it seems impossible. Question 48. What miracle happened when Jesus healed the woman with an issue of blood? Was it A, he touched her, B, she touched his garment and was healed, C, he prayed over her, or D, she was healed after 7 days? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. She touched his garment and was healed. From Luke 8:44. The verse says, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. This miracle demonstrates the power of faith in Jesus' ability to heal. The lesson is to trust him fully and approach him with faith, knowing that he is aware of and cares for every individual need. Question 49. What happened to the widow of Nain's son when Jesus encountered him? Was it A, Jesus healed him of sickness, B, Jesus raised him from the dead, C, Jesus gave them financial help, or D, Jesus forgave his sins? You've got 10 seconds. The answer is B, Jesus raised him from the dead. From Luke 7:14-15. The verse says, and he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. This miracle revealed Jesus' compassion and his power over death. The lesson is that Jesus brings hope and life to even the most sorrowful situations. Question 50. What happened when Jesus fed the 5,000? Was it A, he turned stones into bread, B, he multiplied loaves and fish, C, he called down manna from heaven, or D, he caused grain to grow instantly? Time is ticking, you've got 10 seconds. The answer is B. He multiplied loaves and fish. From Matthew 14:19-20. The verse says, and he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves, and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat, and were filled. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. This miracle showed Jesus' compassion and his power to provide abundantly. The lesson is to trust him to meet every need, and to bring even what little we have to him in faith. Wow! Thank you so much for joining us in this Bible quiz. We really appreciate your participation. How did you do? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your score and what you enjoyed most. Your comments also help us to get better. Please make sure to subscribe to propagate the gospel, like this video to show your support, and share it with friends and family to spread the word. Don't forget to leave a comment about topics you'd love to see next. Thank you for being part of this journey. See you in the next quiz.